folks, I think we're going to get started here. It's about 10 past 7, so it's good to see you all out here tonight. Welcome to tonight's lecture called Climate Myopia, Backing into the Future. This lecture is part of a series that's sponsored by the BC Creek Protection Society that's on energy and environment issues. Before I introduce our speaker tonight, I just want to give you a brief introduction to the society and what we do. We are a grassroots organization that was formed in 2006 by a bunch of kayakers, basically, who were concerned about some changes that they were seeing on their local rivers and creeks. There was widespread development, and there continues to be of run-of-river projects across BC, and the society was formed with the purpose of protecting rivers as part of ecologically unique systems of societal significance and providing public education about the importance of these water courses and raising awareness of the issues that are facing them, including run-of-river projects. We also conduct and support research on the impacts of run-of-river projects on society and ecosystems. Although paddlers were some of the first people to notice these developments on rivers, our concerns have resonated with a lot of other groups. You will have seen Watershed Watch Salmon Society outside and Raincoast Conservation Foundation. Also with other people across the province, locals who are affected by these developments. And our concerns go far beyond the loss of kayak runs, but these developments affect entire ecosystems and the people who depend on natural resources. So I encourage you to learn more about the society and some of the things we're fighting against, the pamphlets outside, and we'll be around after the lecture again to talk about this tomorrow. So at the root of the mass development of run-of-river projects is the idea that developing green energy will somehow decelerate climate change. And tonight, Dr. McGonigal is going to speak about some of the flaws in this logic. Michael McGonigal is the Eco-Research Professor in Environmental Law and Policy at the Faculty of Law at University of Victoria. A lawyer and political ecologist, his work in Greenpeace in the 1970s led to the international moratorium on commercial whaling. During this time, he co-founded Greenpeace International. In the 1980s, he worked on wilderness conservation and forestry reform in British Columbia, including leading the successful struggle to protect the Stein River Valley from industrial logging. The Stein River is 430 square miles in size and flows into the Fraser 100 miles northeast of Vancouver. He was one of the lead organizers of Save the Stein movement that led to the protection of the Stein River Valley as a provincial park. As chair and board of Greenpeace Canada, he initiated its forest campaign in 1990. As co-founder in the late 1990s of Smart Growth BC and Forest Futures, he recently founded the POLIS Project on Ecological Governance at UVic. And he's written extensively in the areas of resource and environmental law and policy, and has been developing a new field of green legal theory. And drawing on his recent work on university reform for sustainability, he has co-authored Planet U, Sustaining the World, Reinventing the University, and Minding Place towards a rational political ecology of the sustainable university. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michael McGonigal.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's a great thrill to be here, and a great pleasure to have such a good turnout. I'm overwhelmed, and I hope I will repay your confidence in me with an interesting and useful talk. I also want to really congratulate the Stream Protection Society is doing an invaluable service to British Columbia in all the work you're doing, drawing attention to the problems with run-of-river and elevating people's commitment to protecting, which is one of the great heritages of BC, of course, its wild river systems. And I think this event, or this series of talks, is very important as well, because we really are, and I think everyone in the audience would agree with me that I hope that we're really at a pivotal point in our history, and we have to take our future into our hands in ways that we really haven't done to date, and without our actions, we're going to see a lot more than our rivers going down. So I want to talk today about, first of all, in sort of three parts. I want to talk about the run-of-the-river conflict, just kind of introduce how we came together and how I got here. But then I want to set it in a broader context, and I'm going to be a bit academic, if you don't mind, for a bit, trying to put the whole issue of rivers and green energy and climate change in a larger kind of historical context, which I think, for me, is really why I got involved in the run-of-river debate a few months ago, but also because I think it's critical for our environmentalists in British Columbia and for our citizens in British Columbia and around the world. So after that context, I want to return and say, okay, in light of this, what are the challenges ahead of us, and how do we address these? So, climate myopia, run of the river. I got involved in that, in the controversy, and I'll talk about it in a second, when David Beers, who's the editor of the Tyee magazine, and if any of you don't read the Tyee, you should, an online newspaper that's fabulous, the news you don't get in the mainstream media. He contacted me and said, you know, Michael, you've been involved in issues like the Stein River, you teach in the university, can you put your analysis as to what this controversy is about? And then of course, he highlighted veteran environmentalist. I thought, well, I'm even older than I thought I was. But so my talk was real. My piece in the Tyee was about the split that has happened in the environmental movement over the last year and over the last really couple of years as run of river takes off, but really over the last year. And that split was being between those who think green energy is absolutely what we need to produce, no matter what the cost almost, in order to decouple us from very carbon-intensive hydrocarbon energies, and to shift away from carbon-intensive energies to different forms of alternative renewable energies. And so that battle, the battle arose over run of river. A green energy strategy that has this lovely name, run of river, because ideally what it does just takes a little bit of water out of a pipe high up in a river and then puts it back in the river later on and runs it through a turbine. You don't have to have big dams and big impoundments and very minimal environmental impact, supposedly. Versus more traditional environmentalists, if you want, who want to see rivers protected and not developed in ways that cause what they would argue is a lot of damage, despite the claims that run of river is not such a problem because it doesn't have large dams. This all took place, and I'm sure I'm telling you stuff you already know, but this all took place within the context of the last election, where those supporting run of river and those supporting strategies to combat climate change would essentially support the Liberal government in power because of their espousal both of run of river, but also supporting carbon taxes, a small carbon tax that is imposed on gasoline and other fuels in British Columbia. So it's a green, quote, a green government. All the while ignoring, of course, issues that have great concern to environmentalists, such as the proliferation of fish farms, prospect of tanker traffic down the coast through exporting Albertan oil through pipelines to Asia, Gateway project to build more highways, and goes on and on and on. So this split between green energy and a new way of producing energy on the one hand, and those who said, well, it's actually not that green, and I'll talk about that in a second, but also, what about all these other issues? And yes, carbon tax is there, which is good, but it's actually not a significant carbon tax. Now, my attachment to this, as has been explained, goes way back. I mean, I grew up beside a small creek as a kid, and like many other environmentalists, saw that creek get progressively destroyed over my youth. I used to fish in it and get trout and bring it home as a kid, and then the housing subdivisions would go in and septic systems, and eventually it became culverted and was gone. And then spent many years at the Stein, which is a fabulous, many of you may have hiked it, a fabulous river, wild river that is filled with, of course, great wildlife and a lot of heritage values. And right at the mouth of it is Lytton, the village of Lytton, where the local Indian band has been using the place for centuries. And so beautiful, fabulous place. So my attachment is strong to rivers. And when you look at the run of the river proposals. So far, there have been 118, as of the beginning of this year, 118 licenses granted and 577 applications pending on other rivers throughout the province. So potentially transforming these rivers in very dramatic ways throughout the entire province, affecting BC's heritage